New Year's, everybody. Man, 2024 has flown by. It has brought so many good changes to here on the farm and in our lives. I hope everybody's having a great holiday season. I'm excited to see what 2025 brings, but I'd like to sit down for a minute and let's recap and look back at some of the highlights of 2024. All right, so starting out early in the year, if you'll remember back, if you've been with the channel for any time now, the farm we bought in early 2023 had some remnants of some old welded pipe fence on the perimeter, and it wasn't installed correctly. It had washed out along the ditch. It was built way too close to a ditch and the road. Numerous issues with that. So first thing we did in the year was we cut that pipe fence out and built a 6-strand barbed wire fence. My son Wyatt got involved and helped me with that a little bit. We also hung a gate. We have a creek that's fed by an artesian well on the northeast corner of the property, and there is a few acres on the other side of that creek. We hung a gate to lock animals on the west side of that creek, just to keep them out of it, to prevent any issues there. That was a major project I wanted to check off the bucket list for 2024, and we did it right off the bat. Not only for functionality purposes, but just for looks as well. I'm right at the front of the property along the main road. It didn't look real good. Now it's also looking better. It's more secure, a lot more secure for animals, and just better function overall. All right, well, I've retreated to a different area here. Got some storms blowing in and it's getting windy, and just to avoid any audio issues. But anyway, behind me is our feed lot. If you've been with the channel, you know that throughout 2024, the farm has shifted gears away from a cow-calf herd and more to a direct-to-consumer approach, feeding out steers and selling beef directly off the farm. We really emphasized that quite a bit this year. I started with just 2 at a time, and it quit just to experiment. I didn't want to get in too far over my head. It took off, and we have been pretty successful with it. We fed about 35 pounds of whole corn per head per day, with a 3/4 pound ration of ADM beef trait. It's a little pelletized mineral. What it essentially does is puts a bacteria in the rumen of the cattle that allows them to process whole corn efficiently. And then we topped it off with 1 to 2 pounds of square bale hay per head per day. So, I mean, all in, you're looking maybe 37 to 38 pounds of feed per head per day. Very, very cost effective. Corn is fairly cheap compared to other feed rations, especially mixed rations. It's been a myth that's been proven that you don't have to crack your corn, you don't have to steam it, roll it, whatever you want to do with it. You don't have to mix it. You can feed it whole, and ADM beef trait really allows that. We've had quite a bit of success, and our steers proved it. We butchered 21 steers in 2024. 21 steers. They averaged across the board of all 21, we averaged a daily gain of over 4 pounds, 4.15, somewhere right in there of daily gain. That's no implants, no steroids, none of that mess. That is just straight dry lotting them right here behind me. That's a 60 by 60 outdoor pen with a 20 by 20 barn stall. They get, like I said, they get that 37-ish pounds of whole corn with beef trait and a little bit of hay to top it off. The hay is not there. We don't want them to fill up on the hay. We want them to get just enough roughage to meet their requirement needs in their rooming. We want them filling up on the corn. And that's where a lot of people differ, is they want to give them unlimited hay, and they'll end up gouging themselves on hay, not eating the grain. It takes longer to finish them. They don't finish out as well. Needless to say, we had quite a bit of success there. Over 4 pounds of daily gain with no implants, no steroids. A nice product. Our steers, we took them to butcher around 1,300 pounds. Hanging weights on the rail were average, pushing 800 pounds, between 775 and 800 pounds average. Some were a little bit smaller that we didn't feed quite as long. Some did quite a bit better than that. We kept each steer for approximately 90 to 100 days on feed before going to butcher. Pretty good numbers that we had there. Very, very impressed with the feed ration, and very thankful for all of our customers who bought beef from us. We are looking to expand that in 2025. Well, I'm just going to stay right here. This is a good spot. We're out of the wind, hoping the audio works out great. Next thing I wanted to recap, moving along into the year, come March, April now, we turned cattle out to pasture at our new farm, got them processed, everything, and got ready for calving season. Calving season was a little later than I liked for the mama cows. I like them to be born more in March. This was more of a May. Not any major issues with that, just personal preference. This year, we ended up running 13 mama cows out on pasture at one point. Not a whole lot, a lot different from 2023, but like I mentioned earlier in the video, we shifted gears more towards our feedlot, selling beef off the farm. We did it in bulk, quarter, half whole, as well as by the pound out of the freezer. We shifted our focus to that. We did also do a lot of the selling of replacement cattle, getting cattle bred and selling replacement. We had some older cattle, up to short mouth, but most of them were heifers, 2 and 3 year old heifers, fixing to have their first babies. That takes us into the middle part of spring. Carrying on into the later springs, throughout the summer parts of the year. Next thing I really needed to highlight was the goats. I'm standing in what used to be our goat pen. We entered the year with 13 goats in a herd, all nannies plus one billy. A couple of the nannies were home raised from the year before. Everybody came into the year bred, getting ready to have babies. But we ran into a lot of issues, some of which we've seen the year before in 2023. If you'll recall, or if you've been with the channel, in 2023, we had some illness come through and wipe out a lot of our mature nannies, our prime age breeding nannies. Blood samples, stool samples come back clean. The vets in the area that will look at goats couldn't tell me anything. They had pasture, they had feed, mineral, water, shelter. We couldn't figure it out, but it wiped out a lot of our breeding age nannies, and it did so very quickly. This year, unfortunately, was no exception to that. We still couldn't figure it out. Start of the year, going back into February, we kind of had what they called an Arctic blast. We had about a week straight, maybe a little more than that if I remember right, where temperatures stayed in the single digits. And that's very uncommon for here. It's hard for goats. We kept them in their barn stall padded with plenty of straw, extra feed, hay, grain, just anything we could do to keep them warm. We ended up first. We lost Penelope. She was our bottle baby from the year before. A triplet that was abandoned by mom. She was born in the mud. Weak to begin with. She had so many issues, neurological, physical, especially younger. But as she got to be a yearling, she came out of a lot of that, but that she couldn't handle that Arctic blast, and she passed away. Going back to the current time that we're talking about, late spring throughout the summer, those same issues from the year before came, and we started losing our breeding herd again. This breeding herd, because we lost so many the year before, overall was a little bit younger. These were more averaging 2-year-olds, 2 to 3-year-olds rather than 3 to 4. But still, same thing. Very quickly went downhill, died. Nothing we could do to treat them worked. Vets couldn't tell me anything. Test came back clean. We don't know. Still don't know. That left us with a very small number, only like 4 or 5 by the time we got to the summer, most of which were younger. My son Wyatt had worked hard, earned his money, and bought him some goats. He was going to take over the goats. It was nothing but a hobby for him and my other kids as well. But, he ultimately made the decision to sell out. So we sold out of goats. We were having these issues we couldn't figure out. And he's at the point now where he's wanting to start shifting into cattle, more like what I'm focusing on. Selling some replacements, maybe even getting a steer and feeding it and selling his own beef alongside me. So the goats were kind of in the way of that for him, especially. His interest had moved to the cattle. That coupled with the health issues and stuff that we couldn't figure out, we sold out of the goats, and this pen has stayed empty since. All right, so currently I'm in what was a new venture for 2024, first for the farm and myself, and that was pigs. This little square here, 30 feet by 20 feet outside with a 10 by 20 barn stall. It was a little nook and cranny off of our steer pen. We fenced it off, ran a hot wire underneath it, and we ventured into pigs. We had quite a few of our beef buyers asking for other sources of protein. They wanted to buy everything off the farm. And I had wanted to expand and been able to accommodate this. So we looked at all the numbers and everything, and chicken, we couldn't do it. We couldn't do it cheap enough. Whether it be buying hatchlings, buying eggs and incubating them ourselves, there was no way, no matter what we did, that we could do it cheap enough. Our break even would be extremely high, so it's not worth it. Same thing with turkey, but we did look at pigs and pork. This was another specific request, and obviously we did it. We started with 3 gilts. Didn't intend to do gilts, wanted some barrows, but couldn't really find any reasonable, especially in this area. So what we did is we went with gilts. We bought 3 of them, put them in this. They cleaned this out pretty good. You'll see in the clip where it was pretty thick, growed up when we put them in here. Now it's nothing but mud. Nothing has grown in here. But it didn't come without its challenges. Mainly they escaped. We had hog wire panels, see right here behind me. They would rip. This has got 3-inch hog nails attaching it to that wood, and they would rip those hog nails out, bend the panel up, get out in with the steers. And that kept happening, so forth. So what we did is we put a hot wire about 4 to 6 inches up off the ground, stop that problem. Everything was pretty smooth sailing from then on. I do wish that I would have had some sort of bulk feeder. I know you can do it like the steers where you control how much they get every day, but but pigs grow much faster than steers, as I learned, and I feel like it would have been even better had I not limited them to a certain amount of feed. I did just buy a mixed hog ration, a hog grower ration from the local feed store, and fed them. It was 8 pounds a day, I believe, is what I was feeding. We started with a 3, got them butchered. It sold fairly well. So then we ended up getting 1 more for the year fed out and butchered it as well. Sold it the same way as we do our beef, by the pound out of the freezer, but we did offer a bulk option and sold a half to somebody. Very small sample size there, but I've never messed with pigs before. So I didn't, like I said, I don't want to jump in too deep. So we started with the 3 and then added that 4th one there towards the end, and probably going to continue here in the new year. The next thing I want to talk about is some upgrades we did on the farm. You can see one of them here behind us. What we did is we bought a squeeze chute, very old. As you can see, this one was, let me look at the date that's welded on it. 1951, made out of Fort Gibson, Oklahoma. All right, so that squeeze chute, it's old, but it was cheap, and it's perfect for what we need here. I do still need to get it installed where we can actually use it. That's a goal for 2025. Anyway, it's got a drop gate on the back to keep the animal from backing out, or a second one from running in. It's not an automatic head catch, but the squeeze does adjust only from one side, and it was made to be portable, but it would need some welding done, probably some new pipes welded on to make it portable again. But anyway, I don't have any intention of needing to transport it, but I do need to get it installed. Right here behind me actually is my idea, and that is a goal for 2025. A second thing we upgraded this year was we bought a creep feeder for the calves out at the other farm when we have calves out there. We don't really feed grain. We do feed range cubes periodically in the corral just to keep mamas used to coming in there, make it easy to catch them when we need to. But I do like to give a little bit of grain, a little bit of creep to the calves. We tend to always have an older cow that has not the best milk supply. And in the case of 2024, we ended up losing one of our mama cows. We had to assist with that, unfortunately, and she had a bull calf on her, and he was too young to wean, but at the same time, too big to try and bottle feed or bucket train. So after a couple weeks of watching him, he was doing okay without mama. He was staying with the cows and the other calves. He was healthy, but you could tell he just wasn't getting what he needed to help grow. So that was one of the other big reasons we wanted to add a creep feeder. You can tell it's not new. It wasn't very pretty, but it came from a farm down in Texas where it was actually damaged. The owner said that it had been picked up in a windstorm and blown. I don't know, that joker was pretty large, pretty heavy, so it must have been some pretty good winds, but I've had no issue with it. Calves, even up to pushing 500 pounds, have had no trouble going through the bars to get in there. And by 500 pounds, I'm not really expecting them to be on creep feed. Moving right along in our recap of 2024, brings us to the fall, into the winter. Not a whole lot at all happened. We've still been feeding steers. I hadn't shown a whole lot of it in videos, mainly just due to it's very repetitive, and I can only show it so many ways, and I don't want y'all to get bored with it. So I didn't show that a whole lot, but the weather has just been nasty this winter, fall and winter so far. We've had so much rainfall throughout 2024. Most of our cold weather was limited to January, February. We've not really gotten below freezing since, even right here at the holiday season, pushing into 2025. Only dipped down into the mid upper 30s a couple of times, but we've been 50s and 60s since at our coldest. But we have gotten so much rainfall. We are gonna, let me look, 57 and almost a quarter inches. So 57 and a quarter inches of rain that we've gotten here in 2024. The months that we got rain, it was averaging between 5 and 7 inches a month. There were a few months where we didn't really get any rainfall at all, but most 5 to 7 inches for the most part is what we were averaging per month, for a total of 57 and a quarter inches. It's just been so wet. It's been hard to find time to get out and do anything. When it wasn't raining, it was too wet on the ground, too muddy. And when it was dry enough, I have an off the farm job and things. So just limited time. It was just never worked out to get out and do a whole lot when weather allowed. But we did have some storm damage. Our feedlot corral, we had a washout where the stall goes outside into the pen. It was getting pretty deep. You'd step in and go, I'm over 6'4" in height, and I would go over knee deep in this mud. So we had a pile of dirt. We brought several bucket loads with the tractor in to pack that in tight. Probably going to need to add a little bit of gravel to that sometime fairly soon, but it's doing a lot better than it was. And then over at the other farm, we had 3 trees get knocked down, one across the driveway, a second one at the driveway but fell back into the pasture, and then back, if you'll remember, in 2023 we had a red heifer had her first calf underneath this big oak tree that stands by itself out in the middle of the pasture. This tree, it's got to have been hundreds of years old, 6, 7, 8 feet in diameter at the main trunk, and it split another 7, 8 feet in diameter across the trunk. Well, that split broke off, but there's no way a chainsaw that I would have would cut it. It would take some professional forestry equipment to handle something of that size, and it's out of the way. So I hadn't been worried about it, but we did get those 2 at the driveway cut. We drug them with the 4-wheeler, as you saw in one of my last videos. And that kind of rounds out 2024. Lots of changes. We added a chute, creep feeder. We upgraded our truck to a diesel 2500, which will allow us to pull better. We made some property improvements, tearing out some ugly old messed up pipe fence and installing brand new 6-strand barbed wire fence. Shifted gears towards beef and pork off the farm with hopes to expand that. And then cleaned up some storm damage. But anyway, I appreciate y'all being along for the journey. About this video, I've kind of hinted at some of our goals for 2025. I want to just talk about those a little bit more. So first is to continue to expand beef. I had no idea when I started that earlier this year, selling beef off the farm, that it would take off as good as it did. I was hoping it would, but I had no idea if it would or not. Like I said, we butchered 21 steers this year, selling beef in bulk, quarter, half whole, as well as by the pound, which differs from a lot of our competitors in the area. I'd like to continue to expand that. I would also like to incorporate shipping with this. We created a website, kingfamilyfarms.org. Check it out. I'll drop a link in the description. I would like to offer shipping across the country Don't know if that'll happen or not, but I'd like to at least try and look into it. The feedlot here behind me, what I would like to do here is, I'll just kind of walk you through and show you. I would like to make this divider fence between this old goat pen where I'm standing and the current feedlot, make it two different pens here. I'm going to walk up to the alleyway and kind of show you what I had in mind. Maybe okay, we're in the alleyway. This is the stall that the steers have had access to. I'd like to cut this out, make some slants and put a feed bunk here, make this where I feed the steers at. And coming down the alleyway here into the steer pen, I would like to have some sort of gate set up here, running narrowly all the way down right here. So when cattle come from this alleyway, they're forced into a lane right here going down. And where this green gate is behind me is approximately where I would like the squeeze chute to be. Beyond the squeeze chute, they leave the squeeze chute, and I can either open a cut gate and let them out this way into the steer pen, or I can cut through the divider gate and into that pen. That will allow me two areas where I can store steers. It would also let me cut different groups as I need to. That's kind of my idea. It's going to be a lot of work, but something I would like to do. I thought about trying to put the chute up front, but I just don't think that's going to work. Well, that about wraps up our recap and our goals for 2025. Our channel grew over 250, I think 258 to be exact, subscribers this year. We're sitting at just over 900. That'll be another goal. I'd like to finally cross over 1,000 subscribers and get this channel monetized. Not because I'm trying to earn money from it, but it would allow us to be able to bring even more content and expand better. That'll be another goal. The analytics for YouTube also push out content to more people once you cross over 1,000 subscribers, and we're less than 100 away from that. So we grew by 258 in 2024. I'd like to grow by at least 93 here in 2025, just to get to that point to where we can expand our reach and continue showing farm life on a small scale, how to start a farm, keep it going, different ways you can do things other than the traditional cow-calf option. Anyway, if you hadn't already, please like and subscribe. We'll have plenty of videos coming. I'm sorry, there is a train right here. I guess it's got its brakes on. I will see y'all in 2025.